Hello, hello, and welcome to the Elevated Frequency Podcast. My name is Shannon Morse, and I'm here with my lovely co-founder, Lisa Kirby, and our wonderful coach, Amber Henzi.
Yay!
Welcome, Amber. We're so stoked to have you here, and we can't wait to dive in. This is essentially our series of interviewing all of our coaches. We have so many coaches right now, and we feel especially just lucky and honored to have such a really rad and awesome family that we get to work with and interact with, and really just have this fully rounded experience with all of these different perspectives and backgrounds. And we really get to bring that to our clients as a team, but also allow the people who are coming to us to really get to kind of pick and choose what niche or what specific flavor that they would like to dive into further when it comes to coaching and nutrition coaching, things like this. So we're excited to get to know your specific flavor. Lise likes to, or I actually like Lisa to start with a question. So Lise, do you want to start with questions?
I'm like, well, why don't we start with your favorite flavor of ice cream? No, but can you share where you live, just, so people can kind of have a location idea of where you are, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Born and raised California girl. I've been here my whole life. Live in the Bay Area and teach and have taught all over the Bay Area. Lived for a very short period of time in Southern California in Long Beach. And now I'm here with my husband and my dog in Half Moon Bay.
Awesome. And tell us a little bit, I know Shannon and I know this story very well, but tell us a little bit of where you were at in terms of your fitness, nutrition, health, before you found the Green Door Life as a client. What was that like for you?
So my nutrition background started really young. I was 19 years old, and I started taking health classes at Cabrillo College in Santa Cruz, and was immediately referred to work for an alternative doctor in Santa Cruz, and did that for a number of years. And then went to school in Long Beach for dietetics. I was thinking about this morning, that I think I probably would have gone to school for kinesiology. But back then, 20 years ago, the only thing you could have done with kinesiology would have been sports medicine, or a PE teacher. Now you can go anywhere. And so basically realized right away that by the time I would be getting to talk to people about health and food and diet and just energy, activity levels, it would be too late. And so I came home, dropped out of college, and went to holistic nutrition school in Santa Cruz, and then found yoga, and have been now teaching yoga for 16 years, and kind of fell off with the nutrition piece of it, basically because I was just so active and I couldn't find the right fuel with holistic nutrition. I couldn't get there. And yoga, we talked so much about being vegan, which was wonderful as well. And it just wasn't supporting me. And so I kind of just, I'm just going to ignore food, and I'm just going to be really, really active. And turned 40 in 2020. And it stopped working. That I'm going to just work out until I can't take it anymore. And I'm not going to worry about food, and I'm not going to worry about alcohol. And I just started to fall apart. And that was when my very, very good friend said, these two ladies speak your language. they would resonate with your energy and your heart, and basically everything I've ever wanted to do with food and health and nutrition. And you guys kind of just tied those pieces in for me. And that's how I got here.
So cool. I mean, I already want to dig into a little bit when you were in school for dietetics and holistic nutrition. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit more about what is the difference between that experience versus what we teach in our nutrition coaching container? Because we're hearing this a lot. We're getting a lot of clients who have worked with holistic nutritionists. They've done the supplement route. They know a lot about food quality and healing properties of food, but they don't know basics of like, how do you put a meal together that's like balanced and energizing? Or like, how much food do I need?
Right. Well, I mean, I feel like I feel like it's always the clients that I talk to, the people that I talk to are always like, well, my doctor just says eat better, eat healthy. And so I feel like a lot of the information that they're getting is from Instagram, which is awesome because so much of that information is true. It's just a little bit misguided. And so when I went to holistic school, we talked a lot more about the quality of foods, whole foods, the spirit of food, this, how we treat our soil, what water we drink, is it purified, is it filtered, even the seeds that we're planting in the ground, like that full body connection from the soil to the seed to the water to the growth. But still, then nobody's talking about how much of each food should I be eating. So, okay, so there's intermittent fasting. So I need to not be eating at all. And then there's, a lot of meat, a lot of fat, but carbs are really bad for you. So just meat and fat. And then it's like, well, what do you mean? How do I eat around my workout? I don't eat around my workout. I'm working out. When I'm working out, there is no food for at least 10 hours, and so there is no information about the right kind of foods and how to fuel your body around your exercises, your activities. And that's the isolating difference with what we do at Green Door. And it's huge. It's like to me, it feels like the most important component out of everything.
Can you expand a little bit more on what that component looks like in juxtaposition to what you just shared? Because we know what it is, but if you were to tell someone else who's, listening, what is the biggest component? Is it like, what is it? I know it's not.
Well, I was just actually explaining this to my husband yesterday. He's back in college and he gets to live with the young people. And a woman just yesterday, who is his lab partner in her 20s, said, I just know that I need to not eat. And he was like, no. And let me put you in touch with my wife. And the bottom line is that you've already been fasting from dinner time until the next morning. Your body's already fasted. So really the most important thing you do as soon as you wake up is you eat and you fuel your body. And you eat a balanced meal to start that blood sugar regulation right off the very beginning. And then make sure that it's a sustainable meal so that you can last 3 to 4 hours. That's again another fast before your next meal, and fueling yourself properly, an hour right before you're going to work out, and fueling yourself properly so that you're getting enough protein to fuel your muscles after the workout. Like, this is all things that are just being overlooked. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think the one piece that I want to make sure is like super, super clear is that what you're sharing, it's so fun because, when you think about going to school to learn about nutrition, you really think that it's going to be this all encompassing, like, I'm going to have all the answers once I'm finished, once I've graduated. Yeah. But what we hear so frequently is that there's generally something like a very, very big thing that's missing. And that thing is understanding that every person is going to be so drastically unique.
Yes.
That every person will require a very unique amount of protein or carbohydrates or fats, or their gut biome will only be able to metabolize and digest certain foods, whereas someone else will have a very hard time digesting. And I think what's really beautiful about watching your journey is that you've had all of that education and experience, but you also were like, but what am I supposed to do with this? Like, how is this applicable? How is it tangible? Why am I not able to get the results that I'm looking for in my body?
Yeah.
Because the biggest piece was missing, which is the amount and the diversity for each person. So that is really, I just wanted to make sure that we had that, because it's so cool that you now have both of them. You have like a more fuller perspective and picture, so that when you are going into work with clients, that you get to be like, well, I know both where that food comes from, But I also know that you and I together are going to be learning how that food specifically affects you and what you're looking to create in your life and your body and your energy and all of that.
Right.
So it almost feels like alchemy, like
Uh-huh.
magician in a way, you know?
Yes.
Mhm.
Well, I think that there's so much to be said too, that even that we're constantly evolving. It's a science. That's such a level of self-discovery that you go into this and you're going to know where to start and where to begin, and then how to be. I mean, we are the flower as well. We are nurtured in the same way in this container, the way that we would want our food to be nurtured. And then we grow and evolve. And that's really like the fun part. Is this is the beginning. When you get started here, you're at ground level, quite literally. And this is where it's like, okay, so let's get excited about how this is going to change for you. And self-discovery, self-inquiry becomes a huge missing component because there isn't time, right? We have 15 minutes to see people in our medical world, and it's in and out. And you just don't get that time to really sit with somebody and say, how are you evolving as a human being in this world?
Yeah, that weekly checkpoint that with your coach every week. I remember having that experience first with Shannon, and just having, a peer, like someone I really looked up to and just admired and was inspired by, just asking me. And coming full circle, I got to coach Amber, which was such a beautiful treat and experience for me. I feel like I did not do a damn thing. Just I look back and I was like, was I even a good coach? I don't even know if I really, I don't remember like having to put a whole lot of effort besides you coming to me with your own massive realizations. But just that checkpoint of someone like checking in with you and asking you, how are you doing? How are you feeling? It infuses this awareness that, it's so easy to go on autopilot and just go through the motions and whatever you're doing through your day. But having just someone check in on you like that, it is rare, and it's so special, and it can be a hugely transformative experience. And I think one of the things, just on that topic of bio-individual nutrition for each client, what was fascinating that you and I discovered, Amber, for you, was coming from that vegetarian background and then finding out, maybe this doesn't work very well for me. Can you share a little bit what that process was like, and kind of like the guilt and shame that you let go of shifting into a different way of eating?
Yeah. uh, a quick background is I came back from India to move in with friends of mine that were vegan caterers, that when I moved in with them, realized they ate meat. And so they were vegan caterers, and they were teaching me how to apply my holistic and dietetic background to cook vegan food. And so we all sat down at the dinner table one night and we had venison. And I was like, what is going on? And they're like, it was harvested. It's wild meat. It was one of the farms next door. We did a trade and here we are. And I remember eating that. I just remembered this morning before the podcast. And I was like, God, that venison was like the best meat I'd ever had, especially because I'd come back from India. We didn't have any meat in India. We were on a very strict vegetarian vegan diet. And then same moving into New Jersey with these friends. But what you and I discovered, Lisa, is I came from a background. My family owns a free range cattle farm. And I think that part of me not wanting to eat meat was more rebellious towards my family and what I will one day inherit. And Lisa and I had this realization. I was like, I just don't feel good and I'm craving a burger. And she's like, eat the burger. Can I do that? Can I do that? And she's like, eat the burger. And I remember I ate the burger. And then Lisa, you're like, okay, so this week you're going to have wild or red meat every day. And we're going to see how you feel. And my energy, just my body type, my specific, like who I am. And I still, to this day, I have wild meat or some sort of very lean red meat every day. And it just feels better for me and my body. And I feel guilty. I've let go of that guilt, But I thought that, I mean, I still tell people, I'm like, I'm a vegetarian, but I eat meat. And for me, what that means is that I make sure that the meat that I'm consuming is loved and had a good life. That's important to me. Anyway, yeah. So letting go of that guilt that it's okay if I eat meat. And then it actually makes me feel so much better.
There's a lot in there. Woo! The couple things that come to mind. I love that, Lisa. I love that you brought that up, and with just like this whole this whole threesome of us and our different journeys as we've gone through. Because it's all interrelated. And what's cool is that we all learn from each other. And as one person has a discovery, it really kind of lights a signal for someone else to reflect on their own experience. And it just keeps going and going and going. But as you're sharing that, Amber, it makes me think about, well, first of all, you're coming from a yogic background where the majority of that culture is very, very much vegetarian and vegan. And so I'm really curious how that adjustment has gone for you, because we've talked about it in other areas, but I think this is one of the things that we discussed, and we were actually talking about this morning in our group call, because one of the things that we go through in our structure of our week-to-week journey is reflecting on cultural beliefs and influences from different types of cultures, whether it's our friend community or whether it's a religious community, and kind of the way in which we interact with both food or things like guilt, and how that shows up in different ways that we're feeding our body, instead of looking at it and going, wow, that feels really necessary for me.
Right.
And tuning into that, because guilt generally doesn't allow for that conversation to happen.
Right. Yes.
So I'm super curious on what your journey or your process has been coming from the yoga world, and then now kind of implementing those new ways of interacting with something like a protein source. And and just your experience of it now.
I think that it was twofold. So it was in the yoga world. The culture is very geared towards vegetarian and vegan. Nothing wrong with that. And then the holistic world was as well, the holistic nutrition. So I had it on two sides. And what I found was that it just didn't fuel me for the activity level that I wanted to be moving at. So the strength that I wanted to have, I just didn't have enough to keep supporting me. But what's funny is, and then more is on layering. I'm like, but it's just as much like, wait, you eat meat and you eat sugar? So so the guilt, it's a few things, right? It's also, I think, so much about when we're eating our food, what is going on in our head when we're doing it. Like I mean, it's before the course even starts that we're talking about the fact that we can have pizza every single day if you're eating the right balance of macronutrients, right? And so,
And quality.
Yeah, thank you. And so to me, like, there's so much involved in that mind shift as well, of when you're eating meat and when you're sparingly eating sugar, and what you're saying to yourself when you're doing that. You know, you can kind of be in the self-loathing place that just doesn't feed or fuel anything, or you can start to just really see where you are in your body and what nurtures and nourishes you. And that's the other component to all of it. I'm not sure that I answered your question, but that's kind of where my head went.
Yeah, I love it. And what you ended on that with was really tuning into your body and using that level of awareness. And that's what we're doing, you know, and we're giving others the opportunity to do that inside of the container that we're holding. And it's so cool to hear how you're sharing about it, because, you know, we say this very frequently, that we are obviously teaching nutrition science and movement science, but really what we're doing is we're giving people an access point to use their innate sense of intuition and really listen to their body in the greater subtle field that is available to them. Snap Lilies.
I can't second that enough. It's like the longer we do this, and the more we're kind of in the public sphere about it, it's so apparent to me. You can kind of sniff out the diet dogma and these kind of like rigid approaches by a mile away, and it's just so obvious. And to have, that kind of stuff, when you take these like very harsh stances of, general nutrition advice for people, it's polarizing and it gets a lot of attention. Yeah. Because then you're absorbing this information, whether it's online or with your yoga community or through your religion or whatever these points are of attaining that information. And you're questioning, well, oh, is this wrong? And you're overriding it's like we do this from, since we're little, and we start to override our own inner knowing, our own intuition, that maybe when you were little, you knew exactly how to fuel your body, with a little bit of guidance from parents. But it's that blend of what we do that's so unique and so hard to market and describe, is like rooted in nutrition science and helping you check in with what's right for your body and how to assess that.
Big time. By the way, is anyone else frozen?
You are.
I thought it was just your beautifully perfect.
I was like, how'd she do
that? That's great. Good to know. Okay, just checking.
This is amazing because we can still hear you. So this is a really interesting rest of the podcast.
It actually froze perfectly.
Great, Shannon. Tell us your secrets.
Window lighting, my friends. Window lighting.
And now we're shifting into our beauty, which we actually started with offline.
So before we go to, this is very funny. Everyone else is frozen on my end, but I'm going to continue because it's such a very, very cool topic. So one of the things that we were discussing this morning, actually in our group session, which is all about family upbringing and beliefs, was really around when I was younger, I would go into the kitchen when I would come home early from school. I was sick and my mom would ask me, what does your body want? Mm-hmm. And she gave me the opportunity to actually go like, oh, that's even an option. Like I didn't realize I could listen to my body. That's interesting. And so I would just kind of check in. And at the beginning, it kind of felt like a game. I was probably 6 or 7. And I remember one time saying avocado. I remember another time saying like some toast with like a little bit of peanut butter on it. But these were things that we had in our house, but they weren't necessarily things that I would find myself craving. And when I was able to have them, I was just surprised that I felt better. Yeah. And maybe it was the placebo or whatever it might have been, but it actually taught me and gave me the opportunity to just notice that that was an option. Yeah. And I think for so many of us, we don't even realize that asking our body what it needs or what it wants is an option, because we're so often distracted with what the world tells us we're supposed to be, want, have, or do. Yeah. So this container with the coaching environment really allows for us to really co-create and discover what it's going to look like for each individual and let them get access to that point.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm so glad we're touching on this deeper aspect, because it's just ever so important, and really making sure that you're doing what's best for you, and not, it's interesting that we have that tendency where we're, from a young age, for most of us, we tend to ignore those cues of like when you wake up in the morning and you feel hungry, right? You eat. And then somewhere along the way, someone told you, or you watched other people around you. For me, it was my mom. And I'm like, oh, she's not eating, so I'm not going to eat. And then you start ignoring those cues. You get so used to ignoring your body's cues that you're just completely detached and out of touch. And then you're up here in your brain and you're like, I need to be intermittent fasting, blah, blah, blah. And that's when it's just, you're so carried away and so out of touch with your own body signals because you're used to ignoring it. So it's like bringing it back home. And I feel like with you, Amber, your level of awareness, period, or just being open-minded to like just going one layer down of like unpacking that why, you did it on your own as the client. How has that been for you now as a coach and helping lead different types of clients through this 12-week container? Have you noticed a difference of like some clients being super ready and willing and, kind of digging deeper, and others just like not wanting to go under the surface?
Yeah, definitely. Both ways. I think that question of, well, how do you feel? I think that so often, we overlook that because we're so into the task list, we're so wanting to get it all done that we forget to sit back and say, well, how does that make me feel? It's funny. I took a class in India years ago, and our teacher was like, don't forget that we're still supposed to be kind and loving human beings to ourselves as well. And he asked us, did anybody have breakfast this morning? And none of us had. And he's like, did anybody make space for anybody else in the yoga room that's packed? And none of us had. And I had just asked a client the other day who woke up, and she's like, so I haven't had a whole lot of food and I've got a lot going on. And I said, well, how are you feeling? She's like, I'm hungry. I was like, oh, maybe you should eat. What do you want? And it was like, I want carbs. It's like, you can have them. Like there's that checklist that I think we forget to, or we don't know how to anymore, kind of check in and then know that it's okay. Like we are being our own advocate when we are asking those questions of ourselves of like, oh, I just had one piece of toast, because that's what I've been told is you have one piece of toast. And it's like, well, but I'm still hungry. I'm still grouchy. I'm still hating everybody else. And it's like, have 2 pieces of toast to get the energy you need. And then you're ready to really show up for yourself and everyone else. And I definitely find resistance within myself too. That's where clients are such a beautiful mirror. And then clients who are just like, oh, that's uncomfortable. I'm going to stick with with what's not working, but it's always worked until now. And it doesn't, maybe it never really has, but I'm not sure. So I'm just going to stay here. And really, ultimately, I think I can be that client too. I'm lucky I have my husband who pushes me off the cliff. And now you too.
That's right. I was just about to call us Cliff Wives.
Yes.
Your turn.
I get a message this, and it's like, what uncomfortable thing am I going to get kind of encouraged to do, which is so much fun when you start to do it. And that really, this is again, is the gateway to that. It's that little nudging to self-inquiry and pushing ourselves beyond what feels comfortable so that we can shift and change the pattern.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I love, Amber's halfway through the program, Amber's like best quote ever. And I forget if it was text, but she's like, Lisa, I had the greatest realization that I don't actually hate people. I was just hungry this whole time. And I think like the dots, when you're constantly ignoring those hunger cues or other cues from your body, it's almost like you're so dissociated that now you're just in this state of anger or anxiety. Or I see it in my kids when they go too far and they haven't eaten, especially with my youngest. I'm like, it's straight up tears, meltdown. And I'm like, honey, have you had lunch? Have you had breakfast? And he's like, I don't want any. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, we've talked about what happens when your blood sugar gets really low. And he's like, okay. And then he'll go eat something and then he's fine. So it's like, I get to witness this in real time. But for adults, I think there's so many of us walking around like Amber, how you were feeling like hangry all the time, but it just translated as like, I don't like people, or just like a little edge. And so many people don't know that's because your blood sugar is imbalanced. That's because you're freaking hungry and you're starving yourself trying to, follow some 19-year-old intermittent fasting male guru who like absolutely does not have your body.
Right.
So how did that realization come when you put that together of like hunger and, blood sugar regulation, and how has that changed your personal life?
Well, I just want to say that your son and my husband are soulmates, because I just had like the exact same share with my husband. Like, have you eaten? You're crying. You're upset. Eat food. But honestly, I think that it's shown me that I can do so much more than I thought I could do before. Like I was doing quite a bit before without properly fueling and sustaining myself. And I don't know how often that allowed me to be present for people. And now I feel like, and you said this would happen. You also came in and helped me time management. I need another refresher course, but it was just like, once you start to kind of energy move things around so that you don't have all these energy leaks everywhere, such as not eating food, especially at the right times, that I can actually almost double my work, and I have more free time and more energy. And I really love, I love the teachers that I get to teach with and my coaches. And I love my clients, and I can experience them in a totally different way when I am taken care of as well.
Ooh,
So
that's good.
Yeah. Like I know my superpower is love, and I love everyone. But the capacity to love has gotten even bigger in this. So that's cool.
That's a very, very big one for just all the coaches in general. And I think it's something, especially if you've been in the service industry, whatever that looks like, you're providing a service for others. I think so frequently those individuals haven't turned the lens in and first provided for themselves, whether it's through nutrition or rest or sunlight or proper training or hydration. And then they are expecting themselves to be able to operate at this extremely high level. Whether you are a coach or whether you are an executive or whether you are an elite athlete, I feel like athletes, we like to think generally will have a better understanding. But even if you go to like, some of like the yoga culture or in the aerial world, so many, or the dance world, so many of these athletes are just starving themselves and then trying to operate at this high output for such an extended period of time. So what you're sharing about what you've kind of learned through regulating that fuel and the new platform that it's allowed you to essentially embody so that you can show up in that place, so that you can perform at an even higher level. And so that you can then show other people how to perform at that even higher level, because now you've gone through the whole experience and you can be like, yo, I used to do that thing. It kind of sucks, right? Like you feel like poop, don't you? Or whatever. And there's another opportunity available, which is really, really cool. And that's one of the things that I really want to highlight with each like individual coach, is we have these different flavors kind of coming full circle. So when you think about the flavor that you bring and what you are really lit up by when it comes to how you desire to show up for clients, and what kind of specific life path that you have to draw from, because you have a dynamic life path that both includes your husband and his experience, and with the yoga, with your nutrition background, with just your life background, with farm and all of these things. So if you were to kind of like think about all of this different all-encompassing base of knowledge that you have, what's in there so people can identify that?
I mean, the people that I really love to work with are the ones that are out there trying to take care of people as well and aren't taking care of themselves. Like, it doesn't have to be this hard. And I'm here to love you, because right now you're not giving yourself enough love. So I will show you how to do that so that you can go out there and show up for everyone who's needing you and depending on you. And that goes for moms as well, because I think moms a lot of the time can put themselves last. And I'm very interested in the people that want to learn more, because I feel like there's so much that I can share. It's like the cattle background, the holistic nutrition, the dietetics, and working with people who are very sick. Just sharing, like, let's get this kind of working before we get to that point of being so sick because we weren't listening to ourselves all along. Yeah, that's.
And also, what have you noticed? The last thing is that I want to make sure that we share this as well, because you went through the program with your husband.
Yeah.
And we don't have, I don't know if we have any other coaches who started by going through with their significant other.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to experience both how your body changed and how your energy level changed, but you also got to witness firsthand how Sundance's energy and body changed.
Yeah.
So what was that like for you, and what kind of impact did you see on him as you were going through that? Because it's specific for him, and you have that knowledge base now to share with others as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. What was really fun, it was really fun going through him. I remember he signed up. I was so fired up and so excited after meeting you guys. I'm like, oh, they're my life partners. Okay, cool. So we're just going to do this. And I told Sundance, and he signed up the next day. And we're two only children, so I don't like to share. And I was like, this is mine. You can't have it. And he's like, too late. I've already talked to both of them. We're like best friends. And so that's how he dives into things. And so, but I feel so lucky, because we are, the whole way that we approach life now is completely different. We have each other's back. There's, this morning he was up, he's like, we're out of turkey bacon. We're out of meat for tonight. We have no potatoes. We have no rice. He's up at 5:45 and he's preparing all the food, and so that I can teach and show up for everybody else. And so having that partnership, and vice versa, if he's going to study late tonight, so I'm going to make sure that all the food is warm, but it's all done. Like we meal prep and have everything done usually on Thursdays and Sunday nights. And it's something we get to do together, and we love it. And it's something I romanticize about families. Like, I can only imagine bringing our kids one day into this, and they are chopping and all of that. And it becomes, yeah, I'm imagining Lisa's kids with me. But I think that watching his energy change, and also how different, like the things that he needs throughout the day, macronutrients, and then what I need. And then also just wanting to coach my husband. Like, I have to kind of back off and let him come. And it reminds me to do that with clients too. Like, I can't drill into them what I want them to do, because it's not my agenda. It's what they're ready for and what they're ready to accept and see.
Okay. This is, I just have to add the caveat. So Amber looks so sweet, and she is very, very sweet, but she has like this secret bossy side. And she even warned me about it. And she was like, I'm secretly very bossy. I'm like, yeah, right. And it will come out, but it's like, I'm like, oh my God, it's so sneaky, because she says it with this beautiful smile, some of these things, like, making sure you're coming to a workout class or whatnot. Yeah, you totally see that, whether it's your husband or even your clients, where you're like trying to, that's part of coaching, is knowing when to kind of push push someone, and when you need a whole space. It's like a very delicate dance, and you do it beautifully. You really do.
Aww, thank you. It's Sundance probably would disagree, but thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that we want to share here before we officially?
I mean, I could do this all day. How long you guys got? My mind goes everywhere.
Let's say we do another podcast with the three of us, just on, because I was writing up a new newsletter and just talking about the benefit of self-care and health goals with your partner or a roommate or a parent, having someone on your team, and that kind of like doing that together is such a cool thing. And then also with like a greater community, you feel less alone. You really feel like you've got support. It's so important.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the real brilliance in all of this as well, is that we can communicate on Slack, and it's always like, I'm having this problem. Is anybody else having this problem? Or, I send it to Lisa every so often, that clip of you saying, I don't want to do the work today. I'm like, I send that to you whenever I don't want to do the work. And just knowing that we have this group of incredible human beings that's just pulling me along, and on the days that I don't want to. And I mean, Shannon messaged me today and it was like, oh, you're taking some time to rest, huh? How's that going? And it wasn't even in that tone, but that's how I hear it. And I'm like, yes, I'm resting.
I don't even know what I was responding to.
Exactly. No, it was on an Instagram post that I had put up on my page.
Oh, yeah, because I loved the image.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's a whole other thing. What our brain says and what was actually said.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And yeah, where I'm like, she doesn't, in my mind, she's saying, you've been needing to rest. I've been watching you, but that's not what she's saying. She doesn't, I don't think Shannon's ever pointed her finger at me many times in my own imagination.
That's awesome. Wow. So many things. So many things. Okay, but only I'm gonna round us out. I'm gonna play my true holding the container card because I have another meeting. It's starting. So I just want to say, like, we're so stoked to be able to do this with you, Amber. It's been so fun. And for those of you who are watching and wherever you might see this, and you don't know ourselves or Amber yet, hopefully you have a little bit of a better idea about who we are and how this operates inside of the Green Door Life, where we're teaching about nutrition, movement, mindset, all of these things. And as well as we go into this, we have all of these different beautiful coaches who are leading these transformative and truly awakening journeys. And so we're doing these interviews so that you can see who you actually resonate with and also get a bigger perspective of how many different ways there are to go about nutrition awareness and awareness of self-care and what feels right for you. So it's been such an awesome journey to go through this with you. And thank you for joining. And I'm looking forward to our next one.
Yes.
Me too.
We'll get a topic list ready.
Yay.
That's right.
More of this, please. More of this.
And thank you for everyone who joined us today. And we'll see you next time.